I feel very called to become a member of the Catholic Church.
Love the Catholic Church. It's just the best place to be.
From the studios of EWTN, this is Open Line. In North America, call toll-free 1-800-585-9396. That's 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985. You can also send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
Fasten your seatbelts. Open Line Tuesday is on the air here on EWTN, the Global Catholic Radio Network. Pro-life is the topic on Tuesdays, and our normal hostess, Barbara McGuigan, as we mentioned last week, was having a little surgery on her foot towards the end of last week, and she was hoping she would be fit as a fiddle for the program today, but she's still a little bit under the weather, recuperating from that surgery. So please continue to keep Barbara in your prayers, but fear not, my friends. We have another officer in the pro-life army of God in store for you today, and we will introduce her in just a moment. If you've got a question about any of the life issues, the number's 1-800-585-9396. That's toll-free anywhere in North America. 1-800-585-9396. If you're outside the United States and Canada, your number is 1-205-271-2985, and we'll put you straight to the front of the line at 1-205-271-2985, or you can send us an email, openline@ewtn.com. I'm Jack Williams. The lovely and talented Elena Rodriguez produces the program, and your call screener is Mr. Matt Gubensky, our substitute host today for Open Line Tuesday. Will be no stranger to many of our listeners. Janet Morana serves as the Executive Director of Priests for Life and the co-founder of the Silent No More Awareness Campaign, and we'll let her tell you all about those organizations. She's no stranger to you viewers of the TV network either. You see her hosting Defending Life on the TV side of the network, as well as a staple member of the Catholic View for Women, the one, the only, Janet Morana. Janet, how are you?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you, and I'm just very privileged to be stepping in for Barbara. I know her for many, many years, and she's a great friend, and I feel very privileged and hope I can measure up to Barbara.
Well, when you all crisscross the globe in defense of life,
right.
you find people that you can lock arms with, and I'm sure that you make it a point of seeking them out during your travels.
Oh, absolutely.
Janet, tell us a little bit about, I think people are familiar with Priests for Life, familiar with the Silent No More Awareness Campaign. Give us a little bit of background on the organizations and just how you got involved.
Well, basically, I got involved because of Father Pavone. He was ordained by Cardinal O'Connor, and his first assignment was my parish on Staten Island, New York. And at the time, actually, I was a fallen-away Catholic, and it was because of my mother-in-law, who was a daily communicant, who was praying me back into the pews, basically, and got me to come and meet Father Pavone. It's actually my daughter, Tara Lynn, who actually pushed me in front of him one time, telling Father Pavone that I needed to go to confession. And so I started the path of spiritual direction, and then through Father Pavone at my parish, he was there for 5 years. He was very active in the pro-life movement, and I just became aware, really, of this life issue. To be honest, I was unaware when Roe v. Wade was passed. I was in college. It just was a non-issue to me. I didn't even know abortion was legal. But, oh, my goodness, when I prayed outside my first abortion clinic and saw women with visible baby bumps going in to destroy the lives of their children, I said, I have to get involved. I can't take a back seat any longer. And it was like an iron door closed behind me, and I just went forward from there.
You know, Janet, when we are out fighting the evil that is abortion, and when you're fighting the institutions that promulgate, clearly the greatest evil of our time, there's a militant nature that we have to maintain in order to take up arms in that battle. How do you balance that with the compassion that you have to have when you're actually on the sidewalk dealing with individual women?
Well, again, it's because of my work with women who've had abortions to bring them back to healing that I see both sides of the coin. I realize that for the most part, women have abortions not because of freedom of choice. They have them because they have no freedom, they have no choice. Very often it's a boyfriend, a parent, or maybe it's because they're afraid of getting kicked out of school, kicked out of the house. All these reasons bubble around as to the reasons why they're having an abortion. They're not going in there proud as punch with their hands fist in the air going, this is my right of choice, my body, my choice, like you hear the political rhetoric. That's not the case. And so, therefore, we're here to give them that compassionate hand that, okay, you made that mistake, but we're here for you. We're here to bring you back to Jesus' mercy and forgiveness. And there's no such thing as the unforgivable sin. And so, therefore, through my many years of being on both sides there, of meaning trying to stop abortion, but also for the compassion for those who did have an abortion, to bring them back to the Lord's forgiveness and healing. And, of course, at Priest for Life, one of the largest abortion recovery programs, Rachel's Vineyard, is a ministry of Priest for Life. And just if people are listening and you know someone who's had an abortion and they're looking to find help, just go to abortionforgiveness.com. That's our search engine. Put in your zip code, and you'll see where's the nearest Rachel's Vineyard and where are there other abortion recovery programs in your area.
If you've got a pro-life question for our host today, Janet Morana, the number's 1-800-585-9396. A couple lines open for you right now at 1-800-585-9396. Janet, we hear often that the overwhelming majority of women who seek abortions are in one manner or another coerced by outside forces to procure that abortion. How often do you run into young men who may find themselves in a situation where they've been taken out of the decision-making process?
Well, yes, we have. And, at our silentnomore.com website, people can read the testimonies of the men. And, the guys are two sides of the coin. First of all, there's the guys who said nothing, like, oh, do what you want, which that's kind of giving permission to go have the abortion because they're not saying, this is our child, I'll help you, don't worry. But then there's the guys who didn't want them to have the abortion, tried everything they could to stop the abortion. And for them, that's even harder for them to deal with those feelings. And, of course, through programs like Rachel's Vineyard, we help them come to grips with that. They get an opportunity to name the child. And also they have to learn to forgive the woman, forgive the doctor. There's a lot of forgiveness exercises that happen in abortion recovery programs, but that until you get to that point, you're still, have those negative feelings that you have to deal with. And, of course, people don't realize, but Roe v. Wade and Doe v. Bolton gave no rights to the father of the child.
Just getting started on an open line Tuesday here on EWTN. 1-800-585-9396 is our toll-free number with your pro-life questions for Janet Morana, the Executive Director of Priests for Life. 1-800-585-9396. Open line Tuesday rolls on with Janet Morana.
From EWTN News Nightly in Washington, D.C., I'm Brian Patrick. Here's your EWTN News link. Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders square off for the last so-called Super Tuesday of the primary season. Meanwhile, the Associated Press calculates Clinton has clinched the Democratic nomination with pledged delegates. Speaker of the House Paul Ryan proposes an overhaul of the nation's poverty programs today. His plan would make changes to welfare, food, housing aid, and other programs. Ryan says Washington needs to measure success by how it helps, not by how much it spends. Syria's president vows to liberate every inch of the country in the same way his troops recaptured Palmyra from ISIS terrorists. Bashar Assad says the situation on the ground is better than it was just months ago. And Pope Francis urges Christians to be salt and light, but never self-serving. During his morning homily, the Holy Father says the battery to generate light is simply prayer. I'm Brian Patrick with your news link. Join us tonight for EWTN News Nightly.
Podcasts of Open Line are available within 24 hours of live broadcast. Go to EWTN.com and click on Multimedia.
The EWTN book of the month for June is Mother Angelica's Answers, Not Promises. Mother's straightforward solutions to life's puzzling problems are written in this practical, humorous, and common sense collection that will help you with your struggles and draw you closer to God. It's available through the EWTN Religious Catalog web store, EWTNRC.com, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or call 1-800-854-6316.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
Be sure to check out EWTN Radio on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/EWTN Radio and give us a like if you would be so kind. And check out all the good information that our social media manager, Mr. Jeff Burson, puts up on behalf of EWTN Radio. Couple lines open at 1-800-585-9396 with your questions for Janet Morana, joining us today, the Director of Priests for Life and also the founder of the Silent No More, well, co-founder of the Silent No More Awareness Campaign. We've got an email from... well, I'm not sure who it's from. It doesn't have a from name on it, so it's from Anonymous. It says, "Hello, I'm a cradle Catholic who had fallen away from the church. After getting married and starting a family, my husband, also a Catholic, and I are back in the faith and relearning the church's position on various topics. We are struggling with the birth control issue. I understand the church is against any form of it. I'm confused by the number of good practicing Catholics who do not follow this teaching. My own mother, one of the strongest women of faith I know, had her tubes tied after being told by a priest this was okay due to health risks. Is it a sin? We have 3 wonderful kids and do feel our family is complete. Thanks. I really enjoy the program." Janet?
Well. This is that age-old thing. Well, first of all, the church offers a very good method, which is called natural family planning. That really is acceptable by the church to use for family spacing of children or family planning. And also, too, in the case of, she said, the tubal ligation, I mean, if you go back to the 80s, that was the hot ticket back then. Doctors were offering tubal ligations like crazy. But again, that's not accepted by the church's teaching. And again, natural family planning is the way to go. And if you go to Pope Paul VI Institute, their website, there's a lot. Dr. Hilgers has a lot of information there about how to practice NFP, and also for women who have issues with their problems, like from menstrual problems, all kinds of problems, where doctors want to just give you the birth control pill. Dr. Hilgers and his NAPRO technology docs have plenty of good information.
To the phones we go. Our leadoff hitter today is Mary, listening to EWTN in the great state of Ohio on Living Bread Radio. Mary, what's your question today for Janet Morana?
My question is actually very similar to the last one. I have a friend who is a good practicing Catholic, but was told by her doctor she needed to use the birth control pill to treat other health issues. And while she doesn't intend to contracept, she is, because that's the way she's been advised to treat them. And I asked my priest about it because I said, well, what should I tell her? Isn't that an issue because it's an abortifacient? And he said something about the principle of double effect and that not everyone has access to a good Catholic doctor who's going to give them something besides the pill. And I don't quite understand how it's okay in that situation.
Yeah. Well, like I started to explain, under Dr. Hilgers at the Pope Paul VI Institute, which, by the way, their website is www.popepaul.vi.com for Pope Paul VI. And Dr. Hilgers has done marvelous work in developing what's called NAPRO technology. In fact, it was St. John Paul II who actually charged Dr. Hilgers with helping. He said, look, there's a problem here. The doctors always want to offer birth control pills for all these things for women, besides spacing out their children. But anytime there's any problem in their reproductive system, they're handing out birth control pills like it's candy. What can we offer? And Dr. Hilgers has done this research, and it's called NAPRO technology. And I actually know women who I've sent to Dr. Hilgers, and he has trained over 500 physicians here in the United States in NAPRO technology. So you just go to his website, and you can find a doctor in your area. And they do treat the problem by not just masking it over with the birth control pills. A lot of these problems can be corrected, some with surgery, some with diet, and there's a whole host of other things. So I highly recommend Dr. Hilgers, Thomas Hilgers, NAPRO technology. Just go to Pope Paul VI website for that information.
Is that helpful, Mary?
It is. Can I ask a follow-up question?
Absolutely.
What is my moral obligation towards my friend in this situation? I have informed her of the Pope Paul VI Institute and tried to give her some good information. I didn't say directly to her you know, this is a problem because it's a contraceptive. I mean, she is a good practicing Catholic, and she's married. So, what more can I do, or do I need to do?
Well, what you might want to do is show her, instead of, like you already get told about nanotechnology, what I would suggest is tell her about the negative effects of taking the birth control pill. Because, first of all, it's a Group 1 carcinogen, and that's been classified by the World Health Organization. So that's not some Catholic thing saying, oh, this is why the birth control is bad. And then I wrote a book called Recall Abortion, which is available at the EWTN Religious Catalog, and I did a whole chapter on this, on the pill. And so, for example, there are, like, one of the common pills they like to give out is called Yaz and Yasmin, and by Bayer Pharmaceutical. They have already paid out millions and millions of dollars in lawsuits to women who've been harmed by the effects of these pills. And that's just one company. Johnson & Johnson's been, with the birth control devices they provide, and Merck. Every one of these companies has already paid out millions of dollars in lawsuits for physical damage and, yes, even deaths. And I have told this before. I've met people who actually have lost family members who have died after taking Yaz and Yasmin. What happens? They suffer a massive stroke. They've gone into irreversible comas, and eventually one little young girl was away at college. And the pharmacist there, the doctor on campus, she had severe acne. He gave her a script for Yasmin for her acne. And she called her mother because this girl was, not sexually active and, vowed to be chaste until marriage. And she called her mother, and the mom had also severe acne herself as a young teenager. And so she was sympathetic with her daughter. When the daughter says, well, Mom, can I take this birth control pill, this Yasmin, because the doctor said it'll clear up my acne? She said, well, honey, if that's the reason you're going to take it, then I guess it's okay. 3 months later, her roommate found her collapsed on her dorm room floor. They rushed her to the hospital. She had suffered a massive stroke because of the blood clots from taking the Yasmin. She stayed in that state for 5 years until she finally just passed away. And so I would kindly warn your friends about the lawsuits. All you have to do is, if you want, just Google Yasmin lawsuits and Ella and some of these other birth control pills, and you're going to see there's a lot of problems out there. And so if she doesn't want to pay attention to the good stuff of nanotechnology the church is teaching, kind of be a warning for her own health and say, listen, this is going down the bad road. And what I always tell people is, see, God's way is the right way. He has our best interests at heart. He doesn't want us to take a Group 1 carcinogen. He wants us to practice NFP and go to places like Dr. Hilges and the many doctors he's trained around the country with nanotechnology. So I hope that helps.
Thanks so much, Mary. Appreciate the phone call. That opens up a line for you at 1-800-585-9396. That's toll-free anywhere in North America, 1-800-585-9396. Next up is Nancy in Northern Virginia, listening to EWTN on Guadalupe Radio. Nancy, you're on with Janet Morana.
Well, hello, Janet. This is Nancy Tanner. I'm a regional coordinator, and you know me well. I work in D.C. and Northern Virginia with other post-abortive women who regret their abortion. I'm just calling in to say kudos to you and to reinforce what you were talking about earlier about so many of us were coerced into having our abortion and the problem that men have. I know the man who I was pregnant with when I had my abortion later became my husband. We were blessed to have 2 more children. But he was never able to deal with or heal over his complicity in my abortion. He had said to me, well, it's your choice, but if you have an abortion, I'll pay for it. And that was not the answer I wanted to hear at that time. So I felt like I had no other choice. And everyone in every place I turned said that abortion was my only choice. So I caved on everything I believed in and had that abortion. And I was blessed to go to Rachel's Vineyard weekend and find healing. But he never was, and he could never admit his part in the whole very sadness of that abortion loss. And I then carried anger toward him. So it is something that affects both men and women in such profound ways that, if you listen to society, it's like the quick and easy fix, that this is going to just be over and you go on with your life. Just get over it. It's not so easy to do that. So I was thanking you for sharing today on the radio, and just wanted to say hello.
Well, thank you, Nancy. And, I know Nancy for many years because of her speaking out with the women of Silent No More. And, Nancy, maybe you'd just like to share briefly with our listeners, because I know a lot of talk went on last summer with the baby body part scandal, and I know people said, did that really happen? But you want to just briefly share what happened with you?
I had my abortion in Washington, D.C., and when I went in, they gave me a whole stack of papers to sign and releases, and one of them said that they could dispose of what they called the product of conception any way they wished. And I questioned that, and I said, well, why do I have to do this? They said, it's just a form. You have to fill it out if you want to go ahead with this. And at that point, I was very much wavering and didn't want to go ahead with it, but again, felt trapped. And parts of me just wanted it all over with. And I asked, what do they use, the product of conception for? And she said, well, scientific research, and went on to argue the point that something good and great would come out of this sad loss of what I thought was my baby, and which they said was erroneous because it wasn't a baby yet, according to them. But I knew I'd already had 2 children. I knew what a baby was. So I signed that form, went in, immediately regretted the whole choice of being there. When I got out, I went straight to that desk and said, I want that paper back. I don't want my child being used for science or any other way, shape, and form. And they told me I couldn't have it back. I'm like, what do you mean? They said, well, it's not here anymore. You can't have it back. When I heard and saw the pictures of everything about what was happening with Planned Parenthood, it took me back to the day of my abortion. I knew why they wouldn't give me that form back, because they collect the baby body parts and put them all together just like we saw on the videos. That sent me into an immediate and deep reliving of the horribly violent event of my abortion, and just brought back everything. I know that this happened for people. This happens. This is real. Women are forced into signing releases. They have been doing this for years and years and years, selling these baby body parts. And it's a horrible traffic of death that just continues and continues, and it needs to be brought out. So as horrible as those videos made me feel when I screamed when I first saw it, it was so important to have the truth be told, to get that message out, so people know that this indeed really does happen, and this continues to affect women and men and babies, obviously.
Well, thank you, Nancy, and thank you so much for being Silent No More. We're privileged to have you as part of the campaign, so thank you.
Starting it with Georgette, it's wonderful. You help us in so many ways. Thanks, Janet.
Okay, God bless.
God bless you, Nancy. That opens up a line for you at 1-800-585-9396, toll free anywhere in North America, 1-800-585-9396. And Janet, she talked about the David Daleiden videos that were so prominent earlier in the year. The thing that struck me the most about those videos is they would show in white lettering on a black background at the beginning of each of those videos the federal statute that was in question later in the video, which the video was clearly in violation of these federal statutes. How can you explain or give any encouragement to folks who can't understand why that is not apparent to law enforcement?
Well, I think really the problem we have in our society is that our government currently, of course, with Obama and the whole administration, they're so pro-abortion that they can never see anything bad, no matter what. They're just blind. They're so blind that even when you're showing this is a violation, they make all kinds of excuses. Oh, that's not true. This isn't that. And Planned Parenthood, of course, they're a very, very powerful lobby that they have on the government. I mean, look at all the money they get from Title 10 money from us, and then everything else. So they fought vehemently to try to say, and it's still going on. But the good part of the whole thing is that there is in Congress a committee that is having hearings, and they are calling in experts and doctors and people, and they're kind of looking into it further. What will happen with those hearings, I don't know, but at least it's something. Crack in the dam has begun to happen.
Open Line Tuesday. Our guest host today, Janet Morana from Priests for Life.
This is the Pope Paul VI Institute Minute with Dr. Tom Hilgers.
Women's health care and the care of children and families is an exciting field for an obstetrician gynecologist, but some disturbing trends have been developing over the past 40 years. The shifts in sexual behavior, far from being revolutionizing, have been sexually retarding. These disturbing trends must be halted. Women must lead the action, and all of society must join them. Because the Creighton Model Fertility Care System and NAPRO technology help to build respect for women, for fertility, for life, and for children, and because they help to create a different worldview of the human being and sexuality, the Creighton Model System and NAPRO technology are our ways of helping to reverse these trends, looking for real solutions to real problems. Until next time, I'm Dr. Tom Hilgers.
For a complimentary gift and more information on the Pope Paul VI Institute, log on to www.popepaul6, that's Roman numeral 6.com.
Hello, this is Dr. Alveda King of Priest for Life with Pro-Life Update. Even if you've never been involved in an abortion, you can help those who have had abortions to make their voices heard. The Silent No More awareness campaign mobilizes men and women who have lost children to abortion. The campaign helps these men and women find healing and gives them opportunities in organized gatherings to share their testimonies of pain and healing. You can serve as a regional coordinator to organize events at which these women and men will speak up and say, "I regret my abortion and I regret lost fatherhood." These events reach the public with the messages that abortion is a dead end, an empty promise, and that the doors of the church are open to all who seek forgiveness. Become a regional coordinator. Find out more at silentnomoreawareness.org. This is Alveda King on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
Hello, this is Bishop Ronald Gaynor of the Diocese of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
This is Michael Warsaw, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of EWTN.
This is Father Mitch Pacwa. Thanks for listening to the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
It's Tuesday. That means Mother Angelica Live Classics tonight at 8 Eastern. Mother talks about St. Anthony. And if you think St. Anthony is just a superstitious way to find something you've lost, then you need to tune in tonight and find out just what St. Anthony was all about. That's Mother Angelica Live Classics tonight, 8 Eastern on EWTN Radio and television. Back to the phones we go for Janet Morana. Mary is listening in Louisiana to Catholic Community Radio. Mary, you're on with Janet Morana. Mary, are you there?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go right ahead with your question.
We're here. Okay. I want to tell you something. I never knew that taking birth control pill was like having an abortion. I had no idea that. I was taking the pills when I got married. I stopped them and I got pregnant. My husband said, have an abortion. I said, no, I'm not going to do that, you know. So I had my son, and he said, you don't have any more children, because if you do, I will knock it out of your stomach, and which is cruel. We were married in the Catholic Church, and he was a Lutheran, but he had passed away after that. But I had no idea in the world that taking a pill was abortion, because he didn't want children, you know.
Right.
That's all I have to say. You learn something every day, you know.
Right. Well, first of all, you had no knowledge of that, so therefore, you know, there was no guilt for you on that as far as the church would be concerned. You took it because you were told it was okay and everything like that. However, you know, it's sad to say that, you know, you were in that situation where your husband was forcing you to take the pill. But, you know, the abortifacient effect happens because what the birth control pill does, it does not prevent conception. It prevents implantation. So what happens is when the embryo is fertilized, it follows down the fallopian tube, comes into the uterus to kind of find this nice place and get secured, begin to, develop and grow. What the pill does, it thins out that lining so that the baby can't attach, and then therefore is expelled out of your body. So that's the abortifacient, the way it works as an abortifacient, you see?
And I think a lot of people are unaware of that, Janet.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for the phone call, Mary. Next stop for us is the great state of Michigan. Teresa is listening to EWTN Radio in Michigan. Teresa, what's your question today for Janet? Teresa, are you there? Teresa in Michigan?
Oh, I'm live right now. I'm sorry.
You are. Go right ahead. No problem.
Okay. My question, Janet, I was listening to the show, and I just had to call because I just met with a dermatologist, and, my daughter is, contemplating taking birth control for acne purposes. And so I asked the dermatologist, I said, are there safer birth control pills that you would recommend? I said, even though I'm aware that they're a number one classified carcinogen, which she was not aware of. She said, well, where do you get that information? I said, well, the World Health Organization. But anyway, she suggested Yasmin. She said, that's what I use for my acne. And I was just shocked when I got in the car, and there you are on the radio talking about that exact brand.
Yeah. Well, first of all, how old is your daughter?
19.
19, okay. Well, like I said, what I would do, first of all, is find a different dermatologist if you can, or go back to them. There are plenty of things that they can do for acne that don't involve taking the birth control pill, but you might need to find a different dermatologist. I would show your daughter the things I told you. Just Google lawsuits with Yasmin, and the information I told you is there. And say to her, you could repeat the story I told you, that a young girl is now dead from taking Yasmin, and she's not the only death. They've paid out millions and millions of dollars in lawsuits, and the only reason why it hasn't come off the market and why they keep paying out this money is because they're making billions and billions of more dollars on it. So I would just tell her, listen, you're my child. I'm very concerned for your health, and I think we can just find a different dermatologist that's not going to put you on the pill but treat the problem of the acne. Okay, there's diet, there's exercise, and there's other things they can do for acne that do not involve taking the birth control pill, especially Yasmin.
I hear you and agree with you, but is there a certain type of birth control that would be safer?
No, none of them are. That's what I was explaining. If you Google all these different birth control pills, they all have the carcinogen effect, and the risk of stroke is very high. Blood clots is what happens from taking these birth control pills. So there's not one good birth control pill on the market. There really isn't. And so therefore, it's treating the acne in a different way.
I'll tell you what I would do.
You might need to switch dermatologists,
Yeah. If it were my daughter, I think I would print a couple of those articles out, take them to the dermatologist, and see what her explanation was.
Yeah, and just say, I don't want my daughter taking something that has all these lawsuits pending against it. Because like I explained to you, it's not just the Yasmin, it's Eller, and there's a whole host of them. They're all involved with lots and lots of lawsuits. If nothing else, too, tell her, take out the package that comes with the Yasmin and read the harm and the side effects. Most people don't even read those packages. When you read all the complications, just like you hear the drugs that they advertise on TV, my goodness, if you hear all the complications, they tell you the warnings, why would you take half of these medicines? You wouldn't. So, but like he just said, print out those articles and bring it back to the dermatologist and say, listen, we have to treat the acne a different way. My daughter's not going to be taking any of these birth control pills. Let's just get to the heart of the acne problem.
Thanks, Teresa. Appreciate the phone call there in the great state of Michigan. That frees up a line for you at 1-800-585-9396. Janet Morana is ready for your questions. 1-800-585-9396. Father Joseph is on the line from South Carolina. He's listening to EWTN on AM 730. Father Joseph, thanks for holding. You're on with Janet Morana.
Good afternoon. Thanks for taking my call today. First-time caller.
Welcome.
My question is very simple. Why are we not going after doctors for malpractice who are performing these abortions because they're telling their patients this is going to make everything better, and I don't think that's the case here.
Well, first of all, Father, you have to understand that because this is legal in this country, abortion, and because the U.S. The American Society of OBGYNs, they take a pro-abortion position. There's a problem here because they're peddling abortion like it's not a big deal, no problem. There are women who have had problems who have brought lawsuits against individual doctors, but the number is not that great, and so therefore there are groups in the pro-life movement that are going after the doctors, like you're asking. So, for example, Operation Rescue. They've been quite successful at exposing the damage that these doctors are doing and bringing them to like, say, the each state by state. So they have gotten some abortion clinics closed because of the bad conditions. Some doctors have been brought up on charges. It's a long road to go through, but there are closing. These abortion clinics are closing, and doctors are stopping to do abortions. I mean, when you think about it, in the past, we're only down to about 600 freestanding abortion clinics in the United States, and at one time there were close to 3,000. And so we've made great strides in attacking them, so to speak, in exposing what they're doing. But we still have a long road ahead, and that's why we have to pray and act, both things.
Straight ahead, we'll talk to Sammy in Washington, D.C., Marcia in Marietta, Ohio, and we've got plenty of time for your phone calls at 1-800-585-9396. Janet Morana from Priests for Life and the Silent No More Awareness Campaign is with us. 1-800-585-9396. Open Line Tuesday.
60 Seconds with Mother Angelica.
But I don't know if news is news anymore. Do you think it is? When you hear that they're going to clone a human being, it's hard enough to put up with some people, let alone two of them. We seem to glorify sin, grievous sin these days, you see. But we say that the sin is worth it to do good. Now, that doesn't make any sense, does it? The abortion clinics sell the little fetus $600, $700, $800, $900 a piece. First we murder the child, and then we sell it. For what? Oh, well, it's going to cure an old woman. Well, you just killed a young one. True love is the best gift of all. Bye now.
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
Coming up later today on Cresta in the Afternoon.
Our topics during Cresta in the Afternoon toggle between church teaching and then using that teaching to shine a light on our world. We'll look at Christ and culture, church and world, religion and public life, from abortion to Zechariah and everything in between. Biblical criticism, Hollywood productions, academic debate, family and love, prayer and spirituality.
Cresta in the Afternoon, later today on EWTN Radio.
Thank you for listening to EWTN Radio.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
Be sure to keep it right here on many of these EWTN radio affiliates. You'll hear Cresta in the Afternoon at 4 Eastern. Jerry Usher will be hosting today with Bruce and Chris McGregor from Spirit Catholic Radio in Omaha, Nebraska, and they'll talk to Matthew Bunson, who will also discuss Pope Francis's canonization of two new saints here just recently. And then at 6 Eastern, 2 hours of Catholic Answers Live. Colin Donovan in hour number 1 and Tom Nash in hour number 2. That's 6 Eastern right here on many of these EWTN-affiliated radio stations. Back to the phones we go. Sammy is in Washington, D.C., listening to EWTN on the Guadalupe Radio Network. Sammy, you're on with Janet Morana.
Good afternoon. It's nice to hear this conversation. One of your previous callers had made a point that touched a chord in me. My fiance and I conceived a child. I feel now, in retrospect, as if I had been conditioned by society to accept that I had no choice in this matter, that it was entirely her decision, which left me a couple of angst. I felt as if we were equal entering into the relationship, but from that point forward, I was a second-class citizen. I had no rights at all in the conversation and nothing more than responsibilities. I begged my fiancée not to do it. She had insecurities with our relationship, I guess. I don't know. But it led to her going through with it, and ultimately her lack of trust in me, I guess, ended up destroying our relationship. And after about a year, we ended up going our separate ways. Still see her occasionally, still love her, but I've just never gotten over it. And to this day, I feel as if I had no rights in that relationship at that moment. And that's my comment.
Have you heard this before, Janet?
Yes, sad to say, yes, and that's the point I was making. Because we have the Roe v. Wade and both Doe v. Bolton decisions, men have no right to protect their own child. Now, obviously, he wanted to stand up for his baby. He wanted his girlfriend to have that baby. I'm sure he assumed they were going to eventually marry and raise this child, and yet his rights were not looked at all. I highly recommend that you seek going on a Rachel's Vineyard retreat. A lot of there are men and women on these retreats together. It's not just for women, and you will find a lot of help. If you go to our website, silentnomore.com, there's an icon there for help for men. You can read other men's stories and the resources, but I highly recommend a Rachel's Vineyard retreat, and just go to abortionforgiveness.com, put in your zip code, and you'll see where the nearest Rachel's Vineyard retreat program would be to you. I know they're in Virginia, and they're in Maryland, and you're in Washington, D.C. That's just a short car ride away, and I highly recommend that. You'll see what a healing experience that can be. You'll be giving an opportunity to grieve the loss of this child properly, to name the child. It's just a good process to go through, and I really recommend it. I think you will have peace of some sort if you attend that kind of a retreat.
God bless you, Sammy. We'll certainly keep you in our prayers. Next stop, Marietta, Ohio, where Marcia is listening to EWTN Radio. Marcia, you're on with Janet Morana.
Hi. Hello. I'm a first-time caller.
Welcome.
Hi. I have a comment on the conversation I was just listening to on the radio of the mother with her 19-year-old daughter and the dermatologist. My daughter, who from the time she was 18, was having problems, the skin flaring up, this and that. But then she started having other female problems. And so taking her to her local physician, and particularly when she got very ill and I had to take her to the hospital, I thought she was having appendicitis. But that wasn't the case. She was having ovarian cysts that were very painful. Well, they didn't know how to treat her and treated her very poorly, like, well, it's just a teenage girl thing, and they'll go away on their own, and released from the emergency room, and that was it. Well, through our church, the Basilica, St. Mary's of the Assumption in Marietta, Ohio, the natural family planning woman gave us the name of a doctor she knew in Columbus, Ohio. And he teaches and practices NAPRO technology. If I'm saying that correct.
You are?
That's correct.
And he helped her, asked her what her nutrition was, what she was doing, and he took her off all caffeine because he says, a lot of teenagers, they eat very poorly. The nutrition is very poorly, and this can lead to skin problems, female problems. He took her off all caffeine, all dairy. Not saying that dairy is bad, in my opinion, but all dairy. He put her on vitamin E, put her on fish oil, and evening primrose. Now, I'm just stating these, but people should check with their doctors and talk with them about this.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then after 3 months, went back for a checkup, and she was doing 50% better because she couldn't function. Her health, felt very poorly every month. And after that, then he put her on a natural progesterone supplement. And it's night and day. Her health is night and day.
Right.
And we try to eat very natural food, vegetables, fruits, and try to stay away with any prepackaged food, added chemicals, preservatives, and he's helped her out tremendously.
Right.
And people, teenage girls, and she's thinking about going into nutrition because she just says, wow, women especially, they need to know this nutrition for themselves, teenage girls, their daughters, to help them stay healthier and stay off because of the birth control. Because going to her doctor, they said, well, what's your problem with birth control?
Right.
She says, well, one, I don't believe in taking it. And she stood her ground. I just stayed in the room.
Great.
I was quiet. She stood her ground and explained why. And being a devout Catholic, she said, no, this is not good. And so the doctor we went to helped her. He praised her, said, thank goodness you stood your ground, because that would have just masked your problem.
That's right.
Yeah.
And thank you for that beautiful testimony, and that's exactly what you just said. What the birth control pill does is it masks the problem. What NAPRO technology does, it gets to the heart of the problem and corrects it in a natural way. So thank you for that beautiful testimony. And like I said, you can just go to PopePaul6.org and you can find where is there a NAPRO technology doctor in your community.
Still time for your phone calls at 1-800-585-9396. Next up is Sheila in Albuquerque, New Mexico, listening to EWTN on iHeartRadio. Sheila, thanks for holding. You're on with Janet Morana.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. I have a question. I know you're talking about birth control, but I'm wondering, what are your views on getting your tubes tied? Is it like a really bad sin, or is it a sin?
Well, yes. I mean, as far as the Catholic Church is concerned, it is a sin because you're basically not being open to life. You're saying no, a hard no. However, just like anyone who's had an abortion, anyone who's gone through permanent sterilization, these sins are forgivable. You need to talk to a priest. I myself, many years ago, before coming back to my faith, I used birth control pills, and I did have my tubes tied after I had my twins. The doctors were pressuring me and convincing me that it was the right thing to do, and I didn't know any different. But when I went through spiritual direction and came back to my faith, I confessed that sin and was forgiven. So, having your tubes tied is a sin that can be forgiven. Just like, like I say with abortion, there's no such thing as an unforgivable sin. Jesus' mercy is here for us, but I would recommend talking to your priest and bring it to the sacrament of confession, and you'll feel a lot better. I know I did once I dealt with it.
And no better time than during this year of mercy, huh?
Exactly.
Thanks so much, Sheila. Appreciate the phone call. Next stop, Aurora, Colorado. Lita is listening in Aurora to Denver Catholic Radio. Lita, you're on with Janet Morana.
Hi. I'd like to know why I never hear the scripture, which is in Proverbs 6, that says, God hates hands that shed innocent blood. And I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but that I can understand that.
Well, here at Priest for Life, we do use that scripture quote. In fact, Father Pavone has written articles on it. He's preached about it. That when innocent blood is shed, we are all responsible, and that's how we talk about the sin of abortion in our land, because we're all our responsibility to do something. We just can't. The blood cries out, as they say in the land. And there is innocent blood being shed. So we all take responsibility. Very often people, they kind of push away this issue saying, oh, well, I wouldn't have an abortion and I wouldn't want anyone I know. But, we have to let those people out there do what they want to do. After all, it's none of my business. And we quote this scripture quote to say, oh, yes, it is. It's all our business. These are our brothers and sisters, and they are being killed by abortion. And so we are obliged to get involved. We are obliged.
Next up is David in San Antonio, Texas, listening on EWTN.com. David, thanks for holding. What's your question today for Janet?
Well, good afternoon. Thanks for taking my call. First of all, Jan, I just want to say thank you to you and Father Frank for all the work you do at Priest for Life. So my first comment, being an Orthodox cradle Catholic from Chicago, Me and my lovely bride did not find out about natural family planning until we were 34 or 35. And having at 18 and 19 years old to use contraception, we started to realize the harmful effects in the 8th and 9th year of our marriage.
Right.
I got to tell you, I think in the pre-Cana program, as a comment, a young man should understand the beauty of natural family planning and how important it is for the father, the husband of the family, to love that teaching and use it to complement his wife in procreation. So I just wanted to say that up front. But my question is, could you tell us, the listening audience, what is the actual activities of Priests for Life with you and Father Frank and all the priests do on a weekly basis to statistically let the Catholics who are in the pews know what you're doing? Because what are the statistics? How many out of everybody that sits in a pew has either participated or been affected by abortion? If you could do that, I would love it. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I mean, there's no hard statistics, but as far as abortion is concerned, they say that some of the statistics are, for example, by the time women 45 years old, at least one out of every 3 women 45 years or older have had an abortion by the time they're 45. As far as contraception, I mean, it's very hard to say how many people in the pews are contracepting, but I think you can tell just by the attitude of society. And unfortunately, we at Priests for Life provide homily materials for the priests to preach on contraception, to preach against abortion, to preach on forgiveness, to preach about abortion recovery. That's what we've been doing all along. We have clergy seminars. We do a lot, to help the priests. And there are a lot of priests who are preaching more about it. The problem is we have to preach on a regular basis on these topics. You just can't wait till Sanctity of Life Sunday or in October, Respect Life Month, and suddenly you hear about the subject. As a matter of fact, Father Pavone has these homily hints on our website, and he has a new book out called Proclaiming the Message of Your Life, where each Sunday with the readings, he shows how you can have a life message. I think it has to be a constant throughout the year. Not that the entire homily is about that, but it's a mention, and it's a mention, it's a mention. I attend Mass all over the country with my travels, and it's rare that I hear a good, solid pro-life homily. With all the work we're doing, we're going to keep at it. But I tell you, when I do hear one, I always go up to that priest coming out of Mass, and I thank him for that homily. I said, Father, thank you for that life message. So I encourage you, if you do hear a good homily, please praise that priest for it.
Really quickly, Janet, where can they find more of what you do?
Just priestforlife.org and silentnomore.com.
On behalf of our host, Janet Morana, producer Elena Rodriguez, and call screener Matt Gubensky, I'm Jack Williams, thanking you once again for taking some time out of your day. Back at it again tomorrow with Open Line Wednesday. Until we get together then, God bless.